Hello, I'm Scott Michaud with scottmichaud.com, and I'm here today with John Patrick, the host of the Augusta Golf Show. John, welcome to the podcast, and thanks for doing this with me.
My pleasure, Scott. Thanks for having me. Been pretty exciting the last month or so, but we're going to look forward to another major, right?
Absolutely, and I think the last couple majors have only whet our appetite for this one because we've seen Tiger progressing at each step, like he's getting closer to being the kind of Tiger that he was years ago when he's winning those majors so regularly. And I think we're seeing him now really almost there in terms of being in position to win a major.
You know, and I think we said this last month on the podcast. I'm perfectly willing to give Tiger the benefit of the doubt, and frankly, all of those guys the benefit of the doubt when they talk about the process and getting close. I think they're the only ones who kind of know that they're getting close, but for some reason, I've grown to believe them when they say that.
Yeah, they seem to know their games obviously better than we do. We're looking at from a results perspective, too. We're not really looking at all of the little various nuances that they're working on. So we just see the number at the end of the day. And if it's not the lowest number on the board, and especially when it comes to Tiger, we say, well, he's not there. So yeah, I think he is closer. And I tell you, following him around that first day at Olympic, when he had complete control of his game, you could tell that he is really on the brink of breaking out into some great golf.
I am still mystified, and he's mystified me with this for the last couple of years. He did it a little bit again over the weekend, and they've begun pointing this out more and more on television. The swing with everything but the driver is different. He does seem to pick up the rhythm and pick up the pace with the driver that he wants to hit it really hard, and yet everything else he hits with such great tempo has great results.
Yeah, well, the driver just seems to have gotten in his head now. I believe it's a case of confidence with that, and so maybe he's trying too hard with it to steer it. All of us do that, and it happens to the best of them. And I think maybe he's trying too hard with that driver, and he just doesn't have the confidence with him. But when he's hitting irons off the tee and hitting them as far as any of us could ever dream of hitting driver, he is in such command of his game that once the short game matches up with that, he's going to be the guy to beat.
Well, Lytham. Not many folks are familiar with Royal Lytham in St. Anne's. I guess, let's see. Was the last one there Duval?
The last one was Duval.
2001.
It's hard to believe it's been that long since it's been back there, because this is a golf course that has produced some of the greatest champions golf has ever known. If you look at the list of characters who've won at Lytham and compare it to the list of guys that we talked about who've won at the Olympic Club, you're looking at nothing but Hall of Famers. You start with Bobby Jones. You've got Seve Ballesteros twice, Gary Player, Bobby Locke, Bob Charles. They got number one guys in the world, Tom Lehman and David Duval, who won there. It really is. It's one of those places that great champions emerge.
I believe Seve's last major championship.
I think you're correct.
Yeah.
He doubled up at Lytham. He won there twice.
Lots of bunkers, from what I read. I have to confess, I'm sure I watched David Duval win, but I do not remember much of Lytham. For some reason, it sticks in my head, Scott. Was it one of Player's victories, hitting it up against the clubhouse on the 18th hole and having to pitch back onto the green? But I don't remember much else from Lytham, to tell you the truth.
I'm the same way. I don't have a history with Lytham. I've never been there. This is going to be my first time seeing it when I go up there. So I'm looking forward to it, but everybody talks about how hard it is, and when you mention how many bunkers are out there, that's another thing that I think this time could possibly play into Tiger's strength. If he plays that course like he did St. Andrews, like he did at Hoylake, where he is controlling the flight of his ball and just keeping it out of those trouble spots, I don't think there's anybody better at links golf.
And then after the U.S. Open, and we heard a lot about Webb Simpson during the Open with his wife expecting, Webb's not going to the Open.
He is. He's decided he wants to stay home because it's a long way to be away from home when his wife's due date is August 3rd, and I believe it's supposed to happen a little bit sooner, so he didn't want to run the risk of being overseas when she had that baby. So he's not going to go. We've had the same story with Bubba earlier this year, not playing the Players and taking a month off. So once again, we're going to have sort of a absentee major champion at the next major championship.
Can you just take a second? You've had the pleasure, I believe, the great pleasure of going to these Open Championships. For those of us who have not had the chance to go, it's unlike any other championship, isn't it? I mean, a circus is probably a bit harsh, but it's an enormous scale.
It really is, and it's actually my favorite week of the year, and the Masters is right there with it, but it's so completely different than Augusta that it's something that everybody, I think, should go to one time and just to see what it's like, particularly if it's at St. Andrews. But it's so unusual because the fans there are so much a part of this thing. They really are very knowledgeable, as people talk about, but they appreciate the challenge that these guys are playing on these very difficult link-style courses where the traditional high ball, hit it on the green, have it spin back towards the hole, is not what is played over there. So they understand the value of a great shot that's bumped up onto the green and lands about 20 feet from the pin and gives the guy a chance. But the other thing that's so great about it is it's so incorporated into the towns that they're in. Wherever you go, the golf course is a part of the town and a part of the community, and it's a unique feeling. The biggest difference between that kind of golf and what you see at Augusta is you don't get the roars because there are no trees. There's nothing to echo off of. So the sound almost gets lost out there in the wind. So it is a different sensory experience than it is at a place like Augusta National.
I'm kind of curious as to where you're going to go with this, but I'm going to go with this until it happens. I talked about Lee Westwood before the U.S. Open. I'm going to stick with Lee here for the Open Championship. I'm deferential to Tiger. I kind of agree with everything that you say, but I'm on this path now, and I'm going to stick to it.
I think it's a great pick, and I hope you're right, because I still, like we said before, I want to see Lee Westwood win a major. I think he's got a great attitude, he's a great character, and he's a great golfer. And he did not seem fazed by the bad luck that befell him in the final round at Olympic, losing a ball in the tree that really derailed his round. He still was joking and carrying on like Lee Westwood always does afterwards. So I like his mindset going into it, but I like Tiger's game better. I just think on a Open Championship golf course, Tiger is a better candidate, whereas I thought Lee Westwood was a better candidate on a U.S. Open kind of golf course. So I'm going to go with Tiger this time.
And you know what, Scott? If Tiger wins and he picks up his fourth win of the year and one of them is a major, well, the whole conversation changes.
Absolutely. We're right back to where we were 4 years ago,
yeah,
where we're talking about, can he catch Jack? When will he catch Jack? Is it just a matter of time? Tiger right now has shown everybody that whether he's back to that level that he was in 2000, which I don't know if anybody can be at that level again, he is certainly back at the top of the golf world.
But four wins and a major by July is old Tiger numbers. Those are old Tiger numbers.
I guess you're right. It just doesn't look as dominating, I guess, as it did back then, as easy as it did. It's still great, but it just, there was something about that Tiger that I haven't yet seen in this Tiger. So maybe that's just a perspective thing. But yeah, four wins in a major, I would say that's great by any standard.
You know, my problem has been, and I thought this yesterday, I think at the Memorial, as they played yesterday, as they played last week at Congressional. You know, you can't be Tiger Woods and have a battle with Bo Van Pelt. I mean, you know,
some of his greatest battles have been with the Bo Van Pelts of the world.
I know, Bob May. I know.
Absolutely. The guys that beat him are the Bo Van Pelts, the Rich Beams, the Zach Johnsons, who's I should say is not fair to Zach because he's much Y.E. Yang. Exactly. These are the guys that have really given him more of a fight than the so-called rivals. The rivals are the ones that have wilted more often than the guys who really you didn't think belonged there in the first place. And so I think it says something that a guy like Bo Van Pelt maybe has less to lose in the eyes of the golfing public than a Rory McIlroy does when he goes up against Tiger Woods.
Well, there are things that are great in golf. I loved at the Open. I loved the fact that I was watching golf at 9, 10 o'clock at night here on the East Coast. And what I love about the Open Championship is I'm going to get to watch golf at 6 in the morning. I love that stuff. That's great stuff.
I do too. In fact, I just loved last weekend watching the Irish Open early every morning on another terrific golf course at Royal Portrush, which I hope the RNA one day decides to take it back there. But there is something about watching that golf from Europe early in the morning that is very satisfying, and it almost makes you want to go play golf in the afternoon if it wasn't 105 degrees outside.
Oh, that was the other thing. Watching everybody in Ireland all bundled up and wearing outerwear, that hurt my feelings.
Imagine me trying to pack next week to go over there, knowing that's going to be the weather I get and having to leave the 100-degree weather here.
Well, have a great time over there. Thanks for having me on, Scott. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on, John. I really appreciate you doing this. Again, this is Scott Michaud and John Patrick on a podcast for scottmichaud.com.